revolution going on.
And in my opinion, the young generation of white, black, brown, whatever else there is, you're living at a time of extremism, a time of revolution.
What is it revolting against? The power structure. The American power structure? No. The French power structure? No. The English power structure? No. Then what power structure? An international Western power structure.
And I, for one, will join in with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth. And there's got to be a change. People in power have misused it, and now there has to be a change, and a better world has to be built, and the only way it's going to be built is with extreme methods.
So what you and I have got to do is get involved. You and I have to be right there breathing down their throat. Every time they look over their shoulder, we want them to see us.
Once those intentions are made known, we can get to the nitty-gritty of the problem. We can get to the core of the problem. We can get to the root of the problem. And then we can correct the problem.
We Americans are always at our best when we hear and heed the cries of others.
When confronted with massive human suffering, Americans have always stepped up and answered the call to help.
But there's never been anything on a scale of human tragedy in our own hemisphere like what we're now witnessing in Haiti.
Today, President Clinton and I are joining together to appeal to you with real urgency.
Give now, and lives will be saved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, we're very angry today. I think they caught the U.S. Marines and the Rangers off guard today.
This is a clear case and a shameful case where Canada, the United States, and France joined together instead of furthering democracy, ended democracy.
Haiti, we must kill the bandits, documents the horror of a Canada, U.S., and France-led coup d'etat and military occupation by United Nations forces.
Hold on a second, please. President Aristide resigned. He has left his country.
Bill Clinton, named by the United Nations as a U.S. envoy to stabilize Haiti. This is like putting Catholic priests in charge of the Child Protection Agency.
This would be humorous for its irony if it wasn't so deadly serious. Bill Clinton, as President of the United States, was someone who participated in the systematic destabilization of Haiti. In a nutshell, what happened was that Aristide was overthrown in a violent U.S.-backed coup. You covered it under the George H.W. Bush administration. Clinton campaigned on a pledge to stop the cruel treatment of Haitian detainees being held at Guantanamo, and also to reverse the Bush administration's cruel policy in general toward Haiti. Instead, what Clinton did is he kept Aristide in exile for years until they could squeeze out of Aristide a commitment to uphold U.S. neoliberal economic programs in Haiti, and that Aristide would agree not to lay claim to the years he spent in exile as part of his presidency. He was a democratically elected president. He fair and square beat a U.S. candidate. The U.S. violently overthrew him. They butchered Haiti. And then Clinton refused to put Aristide back in power, even though he could have done it with one phone call. And instead, what he did is he implemented a vicious regime of economic neoliberalism inside of Haiti. The Haitian people now are suffering under that neoliberal economic model and the aftermath of this repression force that just terrorized the people of Haiti. To have Bill Clinton now be sent in explicitly to be the person who's going to, quote-unquote, stabilize Haiti and dabble in the economics of this incredibly poor, suffering nation, to me, is just a grotesque act on the part of the United Nations. And I think that anyone who's about justice for Haiti should rise up and say that Bill Clinton has no business stepping foot in Haiti in any official capacity with the United Nations at all.
Jeremy Scahill, I want to thank you for being with us. Jeremy's reports can be found at rebelreports.com.
Like making Michael Jackson executive director of Boys Town. You're kidding me, right?
Randall Robinson, author of An Unbroken Agony, Haiti from Revolution to the Kidnapping of a President. He's referring to the ousted president, Jean-Bertrand Aristide. President Obama has tapped President Clinton and former President George W. Bush to coordinate the aid relief to Haiti. I was wondering your thoughts on that.
Well, Amy, I'm of course troubled by that. I don't think this is the time, neither the time nor the place to discuss those things that have troubled me for a long time in the history of American policy towards Haiti. President Bush was responsible for destroying Haitian democracy in 2004 when he and American forces abducted President Aristide and his wife, taking them off to Africa, and they are now in South Africa. President Clinton has largely sponsored a program of economic development that supports the idea of sweatshops. Haitians in Haiti today make 38 cents an hour. They don't make a high enough wage to pay for their lunch and transportation to and from work. But this is the kind of economic program that President Clinton has supported. I think that is sad that these two should be joined in this kind of effort. It sends, I think, the wrong kind of signal.
It has to be said, certainly both former presidents have a great deal of history with Haiti, don't they?
Yes, and it's not a very pleasant history. The choice of them to oversee this aid program is rather odd. Bush was responsible for overthrowing Aristide, President Aristide, in 2004. Before that, in 1990...
The democratically elected president.
Right. And before that, in the early 90s, Aristide had been overthrown by a military coup, and he was in exile in the U.S., and he was kept in the U.S. for a few years without being allowed to go back to Haiti. When he finally went back to Haiti, he went back only with certain warnings that he should not play around with his socialist beliefs. You know, forget about that and stop evoking class conflict and all that. He was told he must follow a free market program, and under those terms he was put back in power. And he was first, they almost wanted to make him form a coalition government with the military, the same military which had overthrown him. This is under Clinton. So that's outrageous that he should be appointed to such a position. And Bush overthrew him completely in 2004. So it's a very odd choice for this program.
It's interesting because we've had many guests come on and say one of the reasons why Haiti is suffering so desperately after this earthquake is because it wasn't allowed the sort of development and equitable reform and so forth that perhaps Aristide was actually espousing. I mean, do you agree with that? Do you think it's... I mean, what does it say then about the U.S.'s plans for the future redevelopment of Haiti, perhaps?
Haiti, for decades and decades, has been the assembly plant of the Western Hemisphere. It is the place where people are paid starvation wages to assemble thousands of products being sold by the multinationals. That's their function in the economy of the Western Hemisphere. And Aristide was amongst their leaders, the one who most objected to this role being assigned to Haiti, and he was the most likely to make changes to that. But for that reason, he was unwelcome in Washington, and that was carried out by Bush and Clinton, this very unwelcome attitude towards him.
Haiti has been under a series of serial dictatorship. Who armed the dictators? there are other hands in Haiti's problem.
In talking about President Bush, while most people may not know the role the U.S. played in the ouster of President Aristide, February 29, 2004, probably what would come to mind when there's any discussion of relief efforts is Katrina.
The problem of what happened in February 2004 continues. We had democracy in Haiti, and that democracy was blighted by the Bush administration. And now President Aristide's party is prohibited from participating in the electoral process. His party is the largest party in Haiti. And why should we be so afraid to let his party participate? If the Haitian people don't want them, they won't vote for them. That is the very essence of democracy, that people get a chance to stand for election and the electorate gets a chance to make a decision. But we have obstructed that process in Haiti. We have done that under the Clinton administration, under the Bush administration, and that continues under the Obama administration. And that is indeed unfortunate.
This investment will grow over the years. We help our neighbors embark on what is going to be a long-term recovery.
Obama, meanwhile, also announced he's asked former President George W. Bush and former President Bill Clinton to co-chair the U.S. relief effort in Haiti. During his first term, Bush cut off desperately needed aid to Haiti and supported the overthrow of President Jean-Bertrand Aristide. Bush's father, former President George H.W. Bush, supported the first coup against President Aristide in 1991. Clinton, meanwhile, helped restore Aristide, but only on condition that he accept harsh neoliberal policies that he'd campaigned against during his election to office.
Everyone has drunk so much Kool-Aid, they can't remember anything about the Clinton years other than I did not have sexual relations
with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
Is communism is not a problem for America. America doesn't have any aversion to doing business with communist nations. She does business with China. In fact, China is one of the greatest trading partners of America. If Walmart wouldn't go to China to get products, maybe Walmart would not be the strong corporate entity that she is. So many business people from America are having their products produced in China. America, you don't have a problem with her communism that it stops you from doing business. You fought Vietnam and they prevailed. They drove you out. Now it's one nation, not North and South. But aren't you there? Don't you have those that fought in Vietnam going back to the areas where they fought now with friendship? Don't you have Vietnamese that you brought from South Vietnam and they are citizens of America? But they love their country, aren't they here? And even though Russia now has voting and the appearance of some democratic processes, it still has a strong communist political presence. So if America has no problems with friendship and doing business and trading with communist nations, but 90 miles from America is a nation called Cuba. The Spaniards, who were a part of the criminal enterprise of the transatlantic slave trade, brought many Africans to Cuba, as the Portuguese brought many Africans to South America, particularly Brazil. Why then are you so upset with Cuba that you would blockade Cuba for 54 years? She has been under the withering heat of America's blockade and hatred of Castro and his Cuba. What did Mr. Castro do that makes you hate him so? Let us see. What is it about socialism in Cuba that makes Cuba persona non grata for America for all these years? According to the demographics of the original people in Cuba, they say about 68% of the Cuban people are black and mulatto, maybe more. I have discovered in my travels throughout the world that hiding the black reality is part of the white strategy of supremacy. The original people in Egypt, Syria, Cuba, Saudi Arabia, Argentina were all people of color. But when they send their representatives of the ruling party to America as ambassadors, they send white representatives of their people. They do this so that it hides the reality of the indigenous people of their land. I did not know that there were many black Syrians until I went to Syria. I did not know that there were so many black Palestinians until I went to Palestine, now called Israel, and my Hebrew Israelite brothers walked with me and we talked to Palestinians, and I asked them, how long have you and your people been here? He can't even tell you how long it's been that long. Well, the point is, our people are there in Cuba. They live there. So under America's blockade and sanction, my brothers and sisters, as well as other human beings, are suffering. Sanctions does that. And why do you do it, America? You do it to force the people to do something that pleases you, and that is to overthrow the government that you are sanctioning, so you make the people suffer. This is what you're doing to Iran. This is what you're doing to North Korea. This is what you do to any nation that does not bow to your will. When God chose Moses, that didn't end the suffering of the children of Israel. Because when he delivered the message to Pharaoh, Pharaoh and his people increased the evil against the children of Israel. So don't think because truth has come that falsehood would just disappear immediately. A fight ensues between the lovers of darkness and the lovers of God's light. What did Castro do? A brief look at Cuba before Castro. It was a playground for the wealthy of America. It was a gangland paradise, as you saw in The Godfather. It was a paradise for American companies and those who were the big businessmen and women. But the black man in Cuba was considered nothing, as he is in every society dominated by so-called well-meaning white people. So the church might be well-meaning in Latin America, but it never changes the condition of the peasants. And that's why a liberation theology came out of that area, because the people are enslaved by religion and the false teaching in religion. What did Castro do? The Babylonian Talmud instructs Jewish people that 3 things they have to have in order to be a man. You must have land or real estate, you must have cash, and you must have those who will work your land. If you own land, then you must have those that work the land. Since you don't work the land, you are the owner. So the Talmud makes the Jews to have a covenant relationship with the land, mainly the land called Israel or Palestine, which maybe we'll touch in next week's broadcast. So when Fidel Castro rose to power, not as a white man, but as a mestizo, a white-looking man, but of color, who felt the pain of the common man in Cuba. When he overthrew Batista, he instituted agrarian land reform and nationalized land and business. 90% of the Jewish people that were on the island of Cuba left Cuba and came to Florida and other parts of America, but mainly Florida. And there, the hatred of Castro took palpable form. Not only did these Jewish Cubans regained wealth and power, they became so powerful that politicians now needing the votes of Florida in the Electoral College, none of these politicians want to do that which would anger those in Florida, nor do they wish to help establish a better relationship with Cuba. All Central America and South America is awake now, and they are angry with America, not only because of your treatment of them, but because of your treatment of Cuba. And if you want friendship with South America and Central America, you're going to have to adjust your policy towards Cuba. That is what you must do. The time requires it.
In the media.
I
want to start out, Brother Dick Gregory, with the whole Ebola thing. You can't get around it. It's in all the
Yeah, but before we do that, let me ask you a question.
Right.
Women go and buy their underwear and lingerie at a place called Victoria's Secret, right?
Right.
Have you ever asked yourself why is it called Secret?
Yeah, I have wondered that from time to time.
Because Queen Victoria was a man.
Wow.
And then once you know that, and then all you got to do is pull up Queen Victoria's picture and look at that ugly thing. So again, I just said that to say that you have to put pieces together and ask questions. Why? Why? And so when you look at the Ebola, we here, sometime this weekend, you have some time, punch up the article in the London Guardian, where they talked about when the president and them got rid of General, what was his name, Papai, General, about the woman, the secretary he was with, and all of that, and they was getting ready to overthrow the government. I know that. New York Times don't know that. Come on. And it's a vicious plan. They busted about 40 of them. Now, I can understand America can't say that because the world financial market would pull out. But their plan was they was going to kill Romney a week before the election. You see, it's really nice. Black folks always figures out the stuff wrong. They think it's Obama. They was going to blow him away. And then they had a week. And they would have picked General Petraeus. And we'd all be under martial law now. And so in Europe and in Africa, the Africans are angry, man. They say they know this is a trick. And then they got the pitch got so high they had to have some white folks get it to convince them. If this was a trick, we give it to white folks. And then the question is, well, how come they get it and come back to America and they cure it in 2 weeks, but y'all tell us ain't no cure. If you go back to AIDS, I remember black preachers and white preachers and especially a lot of black preachers were saying that's God gave them that, huh? See, one day when we stopped making a pit bull out of God, the same God, I'm not talking about the church, I'm talking about the universal God that put the river and the moons. Do you know there's more stars in the sky than grains of sand on this planet? Huh? And then they reduced people down to believing that your hair, your thing come from Sears and Roebuck. Universe is the same God that produced a Hitler, produced a Jew. The same God that produced a slave, produced a slave master. Huh? And so somewhere, and so people say, well how come you don't think?
But at the same time, we see that they have surrounded us with many of their own agents in uniform and out of uniform who have spent much time here in Harlem posing as peace officers and at the same time breaking up the peace of black people. So we hope that they will be peaceful and we will be peaceful. We are here to tell you to love the white man. You have come to the wrong place. And those of you who think that you perhaps came here to hear us tell you to turn the other cheek to the brutality of the white man, I say again, you came to the wrong place. But no matter what happens, we don't teach you to turn the other cheek. We don't teach you to turn the other cheek in the South, and we don't teach you to turn the other cheek in the North. We teach you to obey the law. We teach you to carry yourselves in a respectable way. But at the same time, we teach you that anyone who puts his hand on you, do your best to see that he doesn't put it on anybody else.
You don't have any boats or airplanes bringing drugs into this country. The white man brings it in. The white man brings it to Harlem. The white man makes you a drug addict. The white man then puts you in jail when he catches you using drugs. Who is it that controls the prostitution in Harlem? It's the white man. Who controls the large sale of whiskey and wine? It's the white man. You don't have any distillery. You don't own Shenley's. You don't own Old Overholt or Seagram. You don't put the seal on that bottle of whiskey. It's the white man. Who gives you the deck of cards and the dice that you use to gamble with? It's the white man. And after he sell them to you, he catch you with them and put you in jail for using them. You're trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty, of ignorance, of apathy, of disease, and of death. And they have these old Uncle Toms
Negro leaders coming to Harlem telling you and me that times are getting better. Times will never get better until you make them better.
I was going to Africa one day, and I had to get a shot. And I asked the doctor, who was a friend of mine, before you give me that shot, do you know what's in that vial that you're vaccinating me with? He said, yes, it's on the label. I ain't asked about the label. I asked you, did you know what was in that vial? His answer, no, I really don't know. How could we let the former colonial and slave master bring in vaccines for our people, and we don't have scientists or laboratories to look at this and test it to see if it is what is on the label? Now, I may not get a chance in my lifetime to come back to Belize, but I do love you, and I want you to love yourself. I was in Zimbabwe. Have you heard of that country? Its president is Robert Mugabe. I was in the capital of Zimbabwe, and they were telling me that 5,000 Zimbabweans are dying every week, 20,000 a month from AIDS. And the biggest industry in Harare, which is the capital, is the making of coffins. I was the guest of the Ministry of Health. Please listen. And my sister who was talking, she said, we are so happy that every child in Zimbabwe has been vaccinated. Every child. You trust your enemy too much. The enemy came to the native people in America, the Indians, and said, in the winter, you all need blankets. We're going to supply blankets. But they put smallpox in the blankets, and when the Indians wrapped themselves in the blankets, they were wiped out. You're dealing with an enemy that is a murderer from the beginning and a liar. So says Jesus in the book of St. John. Look, man, I know what I am talking about. See, they won't confront me. They talk about me, but they won't confront me. Because the truth in the mouth of a man who is not afraid to give his life for his people makes him a dangerous man. Right now, there are AIDS and African genocide, illegal wars. Look at President Obama, our brother. We were so happy when he was elected president, and he wasn't in office 3 months when they gave him the Nobel Peace Prize. And the man is bombing, let me see how many countries. He's bombing in Yemen, in Somalia, in Iraq, in Afghanistan. See, what you doing? just sending drones. What is a drone? It's something that flies. No pilot, but somebody back in a room is guiding this drone, and it's dropping bombs, killing even American citizens that they say are enemy combatants. I wonder what they got for me. Right now, the President of the United States is given authority to assassinate American citizens. There's a group that can pick out somebody that they feel is an enemy to America's policies, and they'll send somebody to assassinate them. I understand that 4 members, so-called gang members, didn't wake up one morning because in the middle of the night, their throats were cut, nearly ear to ear. Who you think killed them? Anytime a black man can organize men, he's dangerous. And if he don't play ball with the real demons, it ain't another gang killing them. That's high up stuff. That's high up stuff. Look at what the scripture says. We war not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and the rulers of the darkness of this world and spiritual wickedness that's up in high places.
America has a record of that, huh? Tuskegee? The only thing they left out of the Tuskegee thing, as far as I'm concerned, is they got the black folks in the nurses department of Tuskegee to do it. And then when Clinton decided he was going to apologize to the black men that was left, I got an invitation, but I didn't go. I said, what about the women? Huh? If you're going to inject syphilis into me, what about the woman I'm with, the girlfriend, the wife? Huh? She suffers more than anybody. And so that's what they're talking about now around the world. And people here, but people scared to mention America because they want to say, oh, how could you say that? I'm looking at your past record. Huh? I'm looking at your past record. If me and you are good friends and I'm known to get sloppy drunk and drive, and somebody tell you, Dick Gregory just had an accident, the first thing you think, I was drunk.
Right, right.
So that's the normal, universal rhythm. And so when you looked at AIDS, only 2 cities in the whole world had it. San Francisco, white folks only was getting it. And New York City, Manhattan, white folks. And everybody was saying, yeah, that's God punishing y'all. Well, wait. If this is a white thing, how come the AIDS ain't getting it in Gooseneck, Tennessee, huh? What about the gays in Miami, huh? How come they not getting it? And then after that, then Africa. And they said, oh, it came from a green monkey. Oh, man, how can I trust you? I can't trust you for nothing. Don't tell me about no monkey. Or did you say your mama? And so that's what, and scared, frightened. I never thought I'd see today something that they could blame on Africa would scare white folks. And all you got to, let me show you the power. If you all that's listening to this show right now, every day at 12 noon, you can do it any time, but unity, 12 noon, your time, just meditate for a few minutes. Don't get into no ripping and roaming and, oh, God, so you serious? You think the universal God that put the whole universe together don't know your notes do? Why are you wasting all that time trying to explain to God your notes do? Just say, fix it, Pop, or Mom, you know. And so all you do, and then you can prove your power. Just start meditating tonight, and then from then on, 12 noon, every day, whatever time zone you're in, just meditate that the truth will come out. Now, here's what's good about that. Oh, Dick Gregory, he just lying. Well, I just told you to pray to God that the truth will come out. I didn't say pray to God that America gets caught. I say pray that the truth comes out. That's all. And you'd be surprised what will happen. I mean, ISIS, can we be that stupid to believe with the trillions of dollars of hardware we got up in the sky, circling this planet every second, that we didn't see them punks over there putting their stuff together? That's because that's a CIA operation. And we so stupid and dumb because you can't have a racist, insane nation like this, and they think with filth. And so consequently, they say, well, where them tanks come from? Oh, those American tanks, but they took them from the people in Iraq who we've given them to. Oh, please.
You're talking about ISIS?
Yes.
Okay.
That's our operation. And the Muslims, I mean, I was in Iran during the hostage crisis. I went over and fasted for 90 days because I knew the girl that was running it was CIA. There was a whole CIA operation. And I was just fasting and praying that they didn't kill them. Mm-hmm. You know, they beheading folks now. In the whole world. Every time you turn on TV, you see them cats practicing in the desert, outside. Every time you turn on TV, they practicing. Come on, y'all. How come y'all didn't see this before now? And so that's what we're looking at. And now they said, well, the white folks that we cured with it, when they came over here, there's no more left. How many people even using it on that we didn't know about? And so that's what that's about. And then everybody, you talk to them and they say, well, you know this brother that's in the hospital in Dallas with Obama. I asked you a question, huh?
Right. Yeah. A gentleman that's in Dallas, you're saying.
Yeah. Well, how come they haven't told us where he worked? How come we don't know what kind of job he had that he can get him a ticket? Who is he? And so that's what it's about. And just like the Attorney General. Did he just up jump and quit? No, man. He got fired. This thing's bigger than him.
And you're talking about Eric Holder. Do you know exactly what happened with that?
Sure, I know. It's that Fast and Furious, huh? Remember that whole gun thing?
Yeah.
Huh? Well, see, they do stuff in the White House when you try not to be who you are. I'm the president of not just Negroes. I'm the president of... Come on, man. You know how long I lived in Chicago? In Mad Daily, Irish Catholic, and 90% of everybody in control was Irish Catholic. Italians was in control in Philly and New York. Are you serious? But when it comes my turn, then I change the rules on me, huh? And so so consequently, what we looking at, but America's not gonna get by with it. We in the same state the Romans was in.
When it comes to fighting the enemy of America, you'll fight just like that. Whether he tell you to fight in Korea or fight in Berlin or fight in the South Pacific. As soon as he says stick 'em, you'll fight anybody he point the finger at. But right here in this country, under your nose, with two-legged white dogs, sticking four-legged dogs on your and my mother. You and I don't know how to bite. Sticking dogs on your and my sister, and you and I don't know how to bite. Sticking dogs on our children and dogs on our babies, and you don't know how to bite. You can't bite nor bark until the white man say bark or bite. In the South, you are segregated by that dog. In the North, you integrated with this dog. And it's no different. Hope you're not getting too wet. Well, the dog is their best friend. The dog is their closest relative. They got the same kind of hair, the same kind of skin, and the same kind of smell. Oh, yeah. And having great power.
They're trying their best to limit the people of the earth. Did you know that there was a policy in America, a policy to depopulate the third world? How does that affect Jamaica? How does that affect the Caribbean? Did you know that Henry Kissinger wrote the memo that became policy, and they said they were going to use food as a weapon, and they sent that policy to the Department of Agriculture, to the Department of Defense, to the Department of CIA intelligence. So they're all in the world of the third world, setting the third world up for internal strife and revolution and death. Where does your food come from? Why does Jamaica owe billions of dollars for the importation of food when you could grow it yourself? But they grow it 1,000 miles away, and they cannot pick it after it is ripe. They have to pick it before it's ripe. Then they ripen it with chemical processes, wax it, color it, and you eating it because it looks good in the supermarket. And now you're dying of all these different cancers. Talk to me. They are killing us off. AIDS is a biological weapon. Ebola is a biological weapon. I read recently, I don't know the truth, but it has been patented. If you can patent a virus, that means somebody made it. It ain't a natural thing. They have to depopulate the earth by 2 to 3 billion people. And you and I are in the crosshairs of the depopulation thrust of the policies of the American government. Where do your vaccines come from? If you're not getting them from Cuba, you need to look at them carefully. Please listen. You're vaccinating your children, but you don't know what's in the vial that they're putting in your children's arm. All of a sudden, they're suffering from autism. Then they tell you, no, there's no connection between the vaccine and autism. Yeah, tell that to somebody else. See, this is the enemy. The same enemy that put smallpox in blankets to the Native Americans
to kill them off. The same enemy that was involved in the Tuskegee experiment to fill black men with syphilis and give them the freedom to cohabit with black women.
Why does this loom to be such an explosive political year? Because this is the year of politics. This is the year when all of the white politicians are going to come into the Negro community. You never see them until election time. You can't find them until election time. They're going to come in with false promises. And as they make these false promises, they're going to feed our frustrations. And this will only serve to make matters worse. I'm no politician. I'm not even a student of politics. I'm not a Republican, nor a Democrat, nor an American, and got sense enough to know it. I'm one of the 22 million black victims of the Democrats. One of the 22 million black victims of the Republicans, and one of the 22 million black victims of Americanism. And when I speak, I don't speak as a Democrat or a Republican. I speak as a victim of America's so-called democracy. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. If you go to jail, so what? If you're black, you were born in jail. If you black, you were born in jail. In the North as well as the South. Stop talking about the South. Long as you're south of the Canadian border, you're south. Don't call Governor Wallace a Dixie governor. Romney is a Dixie governor. $22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up. And they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. They see that the whites are so evenly divided that every time they vote, the race is so close, they have to go back and count the votes all over again. And which means that any block, any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who'll go to the White House and who'll stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You can keep Johnson in Washington, D.C., or you can send him back to his Texas cotton patch. You're the one who sent Kennedy to Washington. You're the one who put the present Democratic administration in Washington, D.C. The whites were evenly divided. It was the fact that you threw 80% of your votes behind the Democrats that put the Democrats in the White House. when you see this, you can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first, and they put you last. Because you're a chump. A political chump. In Washington, D.C., in the House of Representatives, there are 257 who are Democrats. Only 177 are Republican. In the Senate, there are 67 Democrats. Only 33 are Republicans. The party that you backed controls 2/3 of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and still they can't keep their promise to you because you're a chump. Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you're dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race. And what kind of alibi do they come up with? They try and pass the buck to the Dixiecrats. Now, back during the days when you were blind, deaf, and dumb, ignorant, politically immature, naturally you went along with that. But today, as your eyes come open and you develop political maturity, you're able to see and think for yourself. And you can see that a Dixiecrat is nothing but a Democrat in disguise. You look at the structure of the government that controls this country. It's controlled by 16 senatorial committees and 20 congressional committees. Of the 16 senatorial committees that run the government, 10 of them are in the hands of Southern segregationists. Of the 20 congressional committees that run the government, 12 of them are in the hands of Southern segregationists. And they're going to tell you and me that the South lost the war.
On December 6, 1492, Christopher Columbus planted the Spanish flag on an island in the Caribbean inhabited by the Taino people. They called their island Haiti, or the Land of Mountains. Columbus renamed the island Hispaniola, or Little Spain. The Spanish cruelly enslaved the Taino people to perform the back-breaking labor necessary for the establishment of their colony. As a result, the Taino population was decimated within a few short years.
Saint-Domingue had been the most brutal of Europe's colonies in the New World, and the most successful, until a violent slave revolt in 1791 had changed all that, releasing hundreds of thousands from their bondage and overturning the plantation economy.
Haiti is always described as the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. But during its height at Saint-Domingue, it was the richest place in the Americas. The thing about it, though, is that its richness was all rooted in slaves. Its wealth was based on human capital, on owning that human capital.
In what respects was the Haitian Revolution of the late 1790s and early 1800s a critical global event?
Well, today we see the Haitian Revolution, which destroyed slavery in that island, which was a very powerful institution, and which established the second independent nation in the New World after the United States. We see it as part of the age of revolution, the age of the American Revolution, the French Revolution, and the Haitian Revolution. And it was as important as the others in some respects. Certainly it struck fear throughout the Western Hemisphere among slave owners and their supporters. The idea of the slaves rising up en masse and actually overthrowing the system of slavery was the great nightmare of slave owners everywhere, including in the southern United States. On the other hand, it was a source of inspiration to black people all around the world, in Africa, in Latin America, in the rest of the Caribbean, in the United States. Here was a group of black people, slaves, who asserted their own freedom, who claimed their own freedom. So, in other words, the impact of the Haitian Revolution rippled out from Haiti, a small island, to influence the whole Atlantic world really well into the 19th century because of what it symbolized, both for the vulnerability of slavery and for the aspirations for freedom of the millions of African American slaves.
So the first two declarations of independence in the world are the American and the Haitian, right? Those are the first two texts of that type, and yet they couldn't be more different in a sense. They're very different in tone. One crucial difference is that one of those, one of them, the American, is written at the beginning of a war, in a sense, and the other is written at the end of a war. I think in the broader sense, though, what's interesting is how fundamental Haiti was towards the kind of progress of anti-slavery in the long term. Now, there's debates about immediately what effect it had on British abolition and French abolition and so forth, but there's a way in which the Haitian Revolution had kind of fundamentally changed the conversation in a way that is kind of irreversible. I mean, after the Haitian Revolution, you have kind of established as a very strong argument that there's simply no way to claim universal rights while continuing to maintain slavery. The Haitian revolutionaries had kind of, I think, pushed forward the kind of idea of universalism in a fundamental way. And afterwards, everybody has to kind of reconfigure their arguments in some ways in relationship to that. And they're going to often represent Haiti in either positive or negative ways as part of their own arguments about how slavery should be dealt with. In the United States, that's very much the case. And in fact, Haiti is referred to constantly in the debates about slavery in the United States in the 19th century.
In the summer of 1789, when Haiti was still the dormant colony of Saint-Domingue, it was France that grabbed the world's attention. Parisian mobs rioted against the French king and against their own desperate poverty. Chanting slogans for liberty, equality, and brotherhood, they sparked a revolution that would fill history books for centuries to come.
Liberty, equality, fraternity. That was new for the world.
Toussaint Louverture is the epitome of humanity. He realized early on that the condition he was in was totally insufferable.
Toussaint Louverture recruited about 3,000 to 4,000 people, trained them, and they fought the French, the British, and the Spanish army for 12 years.
They burned the mechanisms of their production. They're burning the plantation fields, burning down the houses.
It was a wholesale massacre on a really, really enormous scale. It was a big, big, major payback time.
The Haitian Revolution is probably the most profound revolution ever realized by human beings. The only place where slaves created a nation.
It was easy, even for France's political radicals, to ignore the agony that made it all possible.
The whole concept of slavery itself is a totally savage one. The French, they brought it down to science. A slave coming from Africa would not last 3 years, the way the system was organized.
The accounts about the tortures inflicted on slaves are often horrifying. Legs cut off or arms cut off, amputations for runaways, rubbing hot powder or pepper and so forth into the wounds. Slaves actually hung and left to die. You can kind of imagine that this kind of world in which essentially human life was given so little value that these tortures were kind of refined to this incredible, cruel effect.
On August 14, 1791, the Haitian Revolution began with the voodoo ceremony held by Duty Brooklyn, a voodoo priest from Jamaica. The result was the slave uprising on August 21, 1791.
Boukman Dati was a slave and a voodoo priest. In August 1791, As Saint-Domingue's white and mixed-race population squared off for a showdown, Boukman called together slaves from neighboring plantations. Boukman had called them to an area called Wakaima. First on the agenda was strategy.
That ceremony of Wakaima is the first Haitian Congress, the beginning of the revolution.
C'est dans cette réunion où l'Africain décide de n'être plus esclave, d'être libre, déjà là dans la tête, de casser cette chaîne dans la tête, de dire voilà, à partir de cette cérémonie, on prend l'Africain a pris son destin en main.
Haitian tradition says the slaves of Saint-Domingue planned that night to revolt. They timed their uprising to start on multiple plantations in 2 weeks' time. On the night of August 22nd, 1791, 1,000 enslaved Africans attacked their masters.
Les esclaves empoisonnaient, les esclaves piquaient, les esclaves tuaient, les esclaves voulaient leur indépendance.
For them to be free, they have to have the same amount of violence that you exerted on them. That's why the revolution was very brutal. This is that hatred in the first day that came out.
Some blacks managed to escape slavery. Many had been born free, fathered by white planters. Others had gained freedom through their own wits or talents. One such man was Toussaint Louverture.
Toussaint is, I think, one of the most incredible figures that I know about in many ways. He's born on a plantation in Saint-Domingue. He grows up on that plantation.
That plantation was owned by a man who was tolerant for the times. Toussaint was taught to read and write as a child.
He eventually occupies a somewhat privileged role, if you can say that, on a plantation as a coachman and has a kind of relationship with the managers and masters in some ways. He becomes free in the 1770s, so he's somebody who kind of occupied different roles in society. And I think that's the key for understanding Toussaint, is that he saw possibilities where other people didn't.
He had businesses, had contacts in the US and elsewhere, bank accounts, managed his affairs pretty well. The man was endless in organizational capacity. I mean, he would have been a fantastic CEO today.
Toussaint had certainly read a text by l'Abbé Raynal which predicted that out of the colonial slave system with its frightening imbalance of numbers and horrible suffering and all of that, there would emerge a leader, revolutionary leader. I believe Raynal referred to him as a black Spartacus.
I am Toussaint Louverture. My name is perhaps known to you.
In 1793, he wrote an open letter to the island's disenfranchised.
I have undertaken vengeance. I want liberty and equality to reign in Saint-Domingue. I work to bring them into existence. Unite yourselves to us, brothers, and fight with us for the same cause.
With his letter, he announces two things. He announces, first of all, his commitment to the process, to the project of emancipation. And he announces his presence as a leader, maybe even the leader. He has gained great respect from his followers. And with this proclamation, he's essentially saying, you want freedom, and I'm the one who's going to bring you that freedom. So I'm the person to follow in this regard.
But Toussaint at this time was addressing the wider world too. He was particularly focused on Spain.
The Spanish wanted to wrestle the colony away from France for two reasons. First, the colony was very, very prosperous in spite of the war. And second, that prosperity was used by the French Revolution to combat them in Europe.
Spain controlled Saint-Domingue's neighboring colony. So in June of 1793, Toussaint struck a deal. Spanish garrisons just over the border provided guns and ammunition to the slave army and tipped the balance their way. Toussaint's forces captured 3 cities within 8 months.
Toussaint Louverture was a talented general for the Spanish and a Saint-Dominguean free black man that betrayed France after they executed Louis XVI. He returned to the French side, however, when he realized that Frontenac's general emancipation was permanent. Louverture's profound military and leadership skills immediately became a turning point in the war.
Toussaint realized that Spain had a king, England had a king, and France was talking about liberty, equality, fraternity. All men equal. So he realized that although the revolt started by fighting the French right now could be the best help they could receive. So he rejoined the French.
After 3 years in opposition, Toussaint Louverture was once again a loyal French citizen. So were his followers. It tipped the balance. Before long, Toussaint, Dessalines, and the army of ex-slaves pushed the Spanish out of Saint-Domingue. The British soon followed. Word of Toussaint's astonishing string of victories against white armies was spreading across the European world. In 1798, as Toussaint Louverture was evicting the last of the British from his island, another French general battled British interest halfway around the world in Egypt. His name was Napoleon Bonaparte.
Well, Toussaint and Napoleon in many ways are similar. Both were a little bit from the margins of French society. They succeeded through military brilliance, and they're both incredible military leaders, and they became political leaders as a result of their military experience.
Just months after conquering Egypt, Napoleon marched into Paris. A coup d'etat toppled the revolutionary government, and Napoleon took the reins of power. "The revolution is over," he declared. "I am the revolution."
As Napoleon is rising to power in France, Toussaint is watching closely about what's going on. He knows several things. He knows, first of all, that there are very powerful pro-slavery voices in France who are agitating against him, attacking him, and proposing that slavery actually be recreated in some form in Saint-Domingue.
Napoleon Bonaparte had had enough of revolution, and according to Napoleon, the U.S. President, Thomas Jefferson, shared his view.
The prospect of a black republic is equally disturbing to the Spanish, the English, and the Americans. Jefferson has promised that at the instant the French army has arrived, all measures will be taken to starve Toussaint. Rid us of these gilded Negroes, and we will have nothing more to wish for.
Toussaint tried urgently to show Napoleon that military logic, if nothing else, proved the merit of black ambitions.
Toussaint was writing Napoleon. He wanted so much to be recognized as saving this land for France.
His efforts failed. In 1802, Toussaint was stunned to see the largest French expeditionary force ever assembled entering Saint-Domingue's harbor. Its mission was simple. Napoleon wanted to turn back the clock.
My decision to destroy the authority of the blacks in Saint-Domingue is not so much based on consideration of commerce and money as on the need to block forever the march of the blacks in the world.
Toussaint Louverture fought the invading French army for 3 grueling months, but the island's black population, now disenchanted with his leadership, offered lackluster support. On May 6, 1802, Toussaint Louverture surrendered. At first, he was allowed to retire from the army with full honors. But a month later, he was called to a meeting with the French commander.
If I wanted to count all the services that I have rendered to the French government, I will need several volumes, and still I wouldn't finish it all.
Arrêtez-le. Toussaint was arrested on charges of conspiracy. Saint-Domingue remained mostly calm in Toussaint's wake. Jean-Jacques Dessalines and the other black officers continued cooperating with French General Victor Leclerc. But then, news arrived from the nearby colony of Guadeloupe. Napoleon had reinstated slavery.
Leclerc reported that he had Dessalines in his pocket and controlled him and had mastered his spirit. Well, he was extremely wrong about that.
Saint-Domingue erupted in anger and fear. Dessalines quickly broke from France. One more time, the former slaves of Saint-Domingue took to the field against European armies.
Dessalines is a no-holds-barred, no-compromising leader and figure who is going to eradicate anything that stands in the way of what the people have been mobilizing towards.
It's generally reported that Dessalines killed all the white people, a massacre of all white people, race war. No, not really. There's one report by a survivor who managed to get out to escape by masquerading as an American, because Dessalines was not killing Americans or English, just French.
The war becomes this extreme scorched earth kind of campaign in which Dessalines and others burn the towns in order to basically leave the French with no choice but to depart.
Dessalines' scorched earth tactics worked. In 1803, the French army was finally driven out. 50,000 French soldiers had died. And Saint-Domingue, Haiti, became the world's first black republic.
The slaves outnumbered the colonists 10-1. Their rebellion would lead to independence for Haiti. It would also alter the course of a young country called the United States. At the time, the U.S. was looking to buy the French-controlled port of New Orleans, but Napoleon surprised the Americans by offering a much bigger land deal, land the French emperor no longer wanted after losing his more profitable colony in Haiti.
Once that's lost, France says, well, you can have the whole of the Louisiana territory, not just New Orleans.
The Louisiana Purchase would double the size of the United States.
So the American Midwest as we know it would not really exist without the Haitian Revolution, pushing France to give up on its designs for empire in the Western Hemisphere.
France, Britain, and America all refused to recognize Haiti. They could never allow it to become an example to other enslaved people in the... Actually, the invasion did come, but not in the form that Christophe thought. It came in the form of trade embargoes, of blockades, and the systematic denigration of the Haitian people, the denial of the right of black people to govern themselves. And no one pursued that policy with more vigor and passion than our own President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson called Toussaint and the Haitian freedom fighters cannibals of the terrible republic. The French, too, did everything they could to cripple Haiti.
No countries acknowledged Haiti's independence in 1804. They're kind of looking to the French to await the French acknowledgement. That many countries trade with Haiti and they have economic relations with it anyway, but there's not a political recognition until 1825, when the French essentially kind of forced Haiti to pay reparations, a kind of reparations, or an indemnity is what it is, money that is to go to the French plantation owners who had lost property during the Revolution. A very large sum that's kind of levied. The Haitian state can't pay it, and so the French banks actually give them loans to start paying this indemnity. And this indemnity is going to kind of weigh on the Haitian treasury basically all the way through the 19th century. Haiti has this enters into this cycle of debt that we're familiar with today, but extremely early, right? We're talking about 200 years of this kind of cycle of debt that Haiti has gone through, which of course has devastating consequences on the capacity of the state within the country.
Under embargo and the threat of invasion from France, Haiti was forced to pay 150 million gold francs to France for the loss of property, namely slaves. This was eventually reduced to 90 million, the equivalent of more than $21 billion today.
And they were paying that debt off, right through to 1947.
19 of those years were passed under a brutal U.S. military occupation.
15 United States Marines land in Haiti to battle Haitian bandits, threatening destruction of American property.
Foreign intervention in Haiti's affairs would become even more blatant. On July 28, 1915, the United States Marines landed in Port-au-Prince, just as they would do in the Dominican Republic a year later. Their declared aim was to protect American and foreign interests. In other words, to ensure that Haiti paid its debt to America and France. For 19 years, the United States wielded an absolute veto over all government decisions, while the provinces came under the rule of Marine commanders.
The role that journalists tend to be comfortable with when they come to talk about Haiti is in the role of the victim. If you ask why are the Haitians so poor, and why are they presented then constantly as the poorest nation in the hemisphere and so on, which is true, it is the poorest nation in the hemisphere. It has to do with three factors, all of which are a function really of Haiti's independence and the strength of its people. The first is the fact that they became independent by overcoming slavery themselves, and the consequence of that was a war that killed a third of the population, that left the country in ruins, and then left it isolated by an international embargo that was designed to quarantine the country. So a big reason why Haiti's poor has to do with the fact that they fought for their freedom and won it rather than receive it. Second reason is the price the Haitian small farmers in particular, the majority of the population, were forced to pay for refusing to follow a dominant trend in world history, which was the one that saw small farmers pushed off their land in all parts of the world, starting in Europe and later in Europe's colonies, into slums where they could be exploited by industry. And that didn't happen in Haiti until much later than other places because Haitian farmers were determined to resist it. And so that provoked a reaction in the form of a very severe neoliberal plan backed up by extremely violent forms of paramilitary coercion. The army and the tonton macoutes that the Duvalier dictators developed to push this process through. And the result then was very severe level of exploitation and impoverishment, particularly in the countryside.
And essentially, what he did was orchestrated or oversaw a policy of creating jobs, low-paying jobs, sweatshop jobs, which then facilitate simply the export component of the Haitian economy, at the expense of developing the agricultural part of the economy. Now, Haiti had been self-sufficient in rice up until the 1970s, forcing them into these urban areas and trying to find some place to live, building facilities, building homes, living in spaces that shouldn't be inhabited, don't have any, they're very weak in structure. And so this exacerbates the situation when you have either a hurricane or you have, in this situation, an earthquake of over 7 points.
When Papa Doc died, his 19-year-old son, known as Baby Doc, replaced him. Baby Doc followed the same principles as his father, as laid out in this 1972 interview with 60 Minutes.
The aim of my government is to increase the volume of foreign investment and at the same time to promote the development of tourism.
He ruled with an iron fist for 15 years before a popular uprising forced him out of office. When the Duvalier dictatorship is mentioned in earthquake coverage, the support they received from Western powers is habitually left out.
So that was the second reason why Haiti's poor. And a third has to do with the political steps that they took to try and fight this neoliberalism precisely by electing a government that could represent a political alternative to neoliberalism. So a popular movement develops in the 1980s to fight this tendency, and it elects a government on an anti-neoliberal agenda in 1990. And the story of Haiti ever since has been really, I think, driven by the measures taken by the international community and by the small Haitian elite to force that government and to force this popular movement into accepting this neoliberal plan that has directly resulted in the impoverishment of the great majority of its people.
This has included US-backed coups against the Aristide government in both 1991 and 2004. In recent years, however, Canada has largely taken over the role of undermining Haitian democracy. This according to Canadian independent journalist and author of Canada in Haiti, Anthony Fenton.
From the moment Aristide was reelected in 2000 until he fled, was kidnapped from Haiti in 2004, Canada played a deliberate role undermining, following in lockstep with U.S. policy, starved it of loans, they starved it of being able to fulfill their democratic mandate. They empowered Haiti's elite, fueled a disinformation campaign, and then in an unprecedented way, Canada played a leadership role as a regional imperial power, propping up an illegitimate regime from 2004 to 2006, imposing the neoliberal agenda that they tried for so long to impose on Haiti. And this is the new face of Canada. This is Canada for the 21st century.
Canada has also supported the post-coup criminalization of the Famille Lavalas party, but it has been the UN, headed by the Brazilian military, that has been largely tasked with policing the social movement.
Its main purpose has been to coerce the population into accepting the consequences of the coup. You've got to remember, the coup in 2004 overthrew a government that had been elected with a massive majority. It had at least 75% or so of the vote. It won 90% of the seats in parliament. And by all credible accounts, that government would remain, and if it could be elected again tomorrow, it would be. So what the UN's main job has been is to provide massive, overwhelming military and police presence to basically force the population into accepting it. And particularly in 2005 and 2006, that's what the UN did. It patrolled Port-au-Prince, treated the population like a hostile force, and on a couple of notorious occasions went in and attacked groups of people who were some of Aristide and Lavalas' most ardent supporters, and killed dozens of them.
In 2009, former U.S. President Bill Clinton took over as the UN's special envoy on Haiti.
And the people of Haiti had an economic development plan that I was helping them to implement, and we're going to go back to it once the smoke clears.
The plan, known as U.S. Hope 2, continues the neoliberal logic of keeping Haiti competitive in textile production. This plan was in action in the summer of 2009 when Haitian President René Préval vetoed a bill that would have raised the minimum wage to $5 per day.
So here's the question. Why can't a country like Haiti catch a break? Go to CNN.com/Cafferty file.
This political and historical story is then recast as a kind of natural condition, as if Haiti is a place that is naturally poor, naturally undemocratic, and so on, when it has precisely been made to be such, in large part by foreign interference.
In 2003, there was a closed-door conference in Montreal, Canada, that brought together representatives from numerous countries to discuss Haiti's future. Not a single Haitian was invited, and Canadian journalist Michel Vastel broke the story that attendees had reached consensus that Aristide had to go. And just over 1 year later, Aristide found himself on a U.S. plane being flown into exile in the Central African Republic. He has not been allowed back to his country since. On Monday, the same countries will be meeting in Montreal once again for the Friends of Haiti conference. AFP reports that the meeting is, quote, expected to affirm the central role of the United States in post-quake Haiti, already illustrated by its massive military presence and relief efforts there. By the time the meeting starts on Monday, 20,000 U.S. troops are expected to be on the ground. Despite recent calls to repay the $21 billion that France extorted from post-revolution Haiti, French President Nicolas Sarkozy joined the chorus in blaming Haiti's misery on the supernatural, saying that Monday's conference should be, quote, a chance to get Haiti once and for all out of the curse it seems to have been stuck with for such a long time. Without either an acknowledgement of the roots of Haiti's poverty, nor a democratic and sovereign Haitian government to oversee reconstruction, one wonders whether the new Haiti can possibly serve the interests of Haitians.
The reason China, with all their power, and you know, China just bought the big hotel in New York City yesterday. Did you see that? I can't think of the name of it now, but it's the Waldorf.
Oh, okay. The Waldorf. Wow.
Waldorf, $2.9 billion.
Wow.
And so the whole thing is changing now. We begging companies to help us fight a war because we can't afford to do it by ourselves. And then we taught Americans, Malachi, they messed up that thing. And no, they didn't. All they said that if you're going to leave troops here, we want the right to prosecute them if they murder or rape our people. They said, no, that's the white supremacy. No, we'll bring them to American prosecute. Oh, yeah, okay, all right. This is what this is about. But they're not going to mention that. They're not going to mention that at all.
So do you see China as being the next world power?
Well, first we have to understand how many dynasties China had, and the only reason they lost their world domination is somebody convinced the Chinese that a woman looks more sexy if she got little bitty feet, so they start bounding their feet from birth. And the pain that them women had to go through. Pain. And after they lost all their power, someone was wise enough to say, you think maybe if we start untying their feet, we'll get our power back. And when the Japanese invaded the Chinese in 1933, they gave them orders, when you get to China, the old Chinese men in the military, don't worry about killing them. Every young boy you see in China, a young person with a tattoo on, blow their brains out. Why? Tattoo represents revolution. So y'all listen, go down the street tomorrow and look, and you see what happens. And those folks is not in control of that. Before you saw the tattoos, you saw the graffiti. Remember that, brother?
Right, yeah, right.
Now, let me show you something. You be driving down the highway and see graffiti on the bridge and nobody saying, how'd they get up there and do that? Without the police in them. And go all over the world and all graffiti look alike. I don't care what language. And then one day the graffiti left and it started showing up on our bodies. PhDs, people with money, tattoos, putting pins through their tongue, man. You know how you ever bit your tongue, you know how sensitive that is. I know it's a whole new ball game now, and it's just about to happen. You know, in Colombia 300 years ago, America sent a bunch of scientists to go and study hieroglyphics. We didn't understand it, but 300 years ago, they went over there and went in the caves and copied it, wrote it down. So it was 150 years before they had cracked the code, hieroglyphics. So 150 years ago, they cracked it, and here's what it said. White man, one day the white lady going to do to your children what you do in the hours, and 300 years ago, cocaine wasn't called the white lady. And the number one drugged out country in America today as we talk is not Chicago or Harlem. It's the state of Vermont.
Vermont.
all you got to do is pull it up on your computer. State of Vermont. I interviewed a white girl there, and I asked her how bad it is in the white community. She said every 10 of my friends, 9 of them's either dead or in rehab.
Wow.
And then you all can pull this up on the computer. The Justice Department released these stats 3 months ago, and they was talking about white folks. More Americans die from drug overdose, from heroin, than all the automobile accidents and all the homicides, okay? That's what this thing is, man. You can't stop it, huh? And the lease, I give you a $10 million Rolls Royce, and somebody slip in the garage and take the spark plug out, which costs $30, your whole car is shut down.
Right. Yeah.
The whole system is shut down. And so this is where it is. But you know what made these little countries want to take us on, don't you?
What?
When they looked at the movement, the civil rights movement, you say, my God, they took on the mightiest nation in the world. They didn't use no guns. That's what them Chinese children are doing over there now. That's what happened in Egypt. Except America promoted Egypt. You know, let us get in the front of it so we can control this. And so that's where we headed, and that's where it's going.
I want to talk a little bit about this whole Secret Service security debacle, where a gentleman made it past all these Secret Service guys with, I guess he was armed with a knife or something, and he got extremely close in the White House. Where
but wait, did I hear you say he was Secret Service? That's why he got past him? No,
you didn't.
The black woman that left Connecticut with the baby in the car.
Right.
Now, let me just say something like this here. Women understand what I'm fixing to say. No woman will leave Connecticut and drive to Washington, D.C. with a 1-year-old baby in the car to crash the president's fence, okay? She never did that. You never saw them take her out the car and the cameras was filming that for 2 hours. You never saw no ambulance show up. And I know some folks that looked at the autopsy. She was shot 27 times, 15 times in the head, okay? Okay? Then here's a white boy, they tell us he's crazy, jumps over the fence. Now let me just say this, brother. If we had an assignment and some commandos to jump over the White House, you know how long we would train so we could get physically fit and able to do that?
Yeah, long time.
And the snipers on the roof didn't shoot him. They didn't let the dogs go, huh? They said, well, we didn't want to shoot him and let the dog go. We thought he was crazy. That's who you shoot, crazy people. And then he gets to the White House, and the door is open. And the alarm is not on the door. But you know what bothered me more than what them thugs, that's a CIA Secret Service operator. You know what bothers me more than that?
What?
Was Obama. And I've never been one to bash Obama. You know, because I followed him 4 years. You look up my, I said 4 years before anybody heard. I said, that's your next president. And so I know where it was going. But he just left out the house with his 2 children. He didn't come back. Can he really be stupid enough to believe that Camp David is safer than the White House? You can slip in heaven before you can slip in the White House. And then all he said is, I have faith in my... Oh, I bet you do. Huh? When he went to Colombia and them prostitutes, you read that, right?
Right.
The prostitutes didn't bother me. You know what bothered me? Idiots who never went to school know one of the most dangerous cities in the world is Colombia with the drug lords, right? All the places the president, if he's as bright as he's supposed to be, could go. Who Who sent him there? Who sent him there? And the only reason those 11 guys they busted, they brought his car in that day. They supposed to watch it all night long. They out getting drunk, you know. And something got to be wrong, because I ain't know no 11 men, all of them want sex at the same time.
Right.
And then what they told us didn't make sense. One prostitute they didn't pay. One of the guys didn't pay her $28. And all at once we looking at a worldwide incident over $28. And somewhere, and they're not trying to kill him. They kill him if they want to. Are you serious?
So what do you think this? Go ahead.
Huh?
No, I was gonna say. So, what do you think? Was this to scare him?
No, he already scared. I mean, if he didn't get scared when he was in South Africa at Mandela's funeral, and they got a black guy there translating sign language, and out of the 180 countries, the most powerful countries in the world was there, and not one of them leaders was sitting next to him. Go look at the film. And everybody come over there, bring their own security. So I can see America shutting it down because they don't want, but I can't see Britain, France, Japan, them, not that them. And the thing was so tight, they didn't even let what's his name, Bishop Tutu in the funeral. But this punk could get in, and we ain't heard no more of it. I mean, it got to be when that family, husband and wife, crashed the White House state dinner. Listen, do you know if me and you tomorrow, I come where you are, and we jump over the counter at the post office, you know that's a federal crime?
Right. Yeah.
Well, how come it wasn't a federal crime for them to do what they did? And nobody detected them. The only reason the world found out, they went home and put it and texted. Hey, let me tell you what we just did tonight, huh? That's what this is about. That's what this is about. So they can take him out anytime they want to. They could take him out tonight, man. And said he was just so nervous and this and that. They say he started drinking or he's on drugs. If we have to take the New York Times word for it, huh? And wait a minute, all that stuff that's going on, we didn't know it was going on until the Washington Post.
Right, they reported it, right.
Who ain't nothing but gangsters and thugs. Huh? Let me tell you something that you need to do for me after you finish the show or tomorrow. Senator John McCain.
Yeah.
He was sentenced by a military court to be shot to death by a firing squad. Because when they captured him in Vietnam, he snitched on everybody. And after he started talking, the naval flyers' death rate increased from 0 to 67% every day. Because he told them what route. And he did a tape that they broadcast. And my name is John McCain. I'm such and such. I'm a war criminal. I drop bombs on schools, which mean I kill women and children. CBS, ABC. You know how many people just hearing this the first time from me? Not the New York Times, the Washington Post, the St. Louis Post is bad. You hear me?
Yeah.
It's a game. That's how tight they play it, man. And so somewhere, when we stop and look, a friend of mine in Russia told me, say, I'm coming to Seattle, Washington to visit my brother. If you're free, I'd like for you to meet me there. Well, I knew what that meant. So I go, and he said, the O.J. Simpson fiasco, he said, our satellite circles your country every minute of the day, and yours circle ours. We say our satellite just happened to have been passing over Southern California when the O.J. Simpson's murders happened. the reason I'm coming to you, because I know you know what happened and what didn't happen. I said, yeah. And I said, so what happened? He said, we sent it to the State Department. We haven't heard from them yet. I said, when you go back, ask them if it's for sale, and I can buy it. I haven't heard back from them no more. I'm the one released the picture with Ron Brown with the bullet in the back of his head. It never was a plane wreck. Ron Brown was Secretary of Treasury, and he was coming back to go before grand jury about the money he brought, him and his son brought back from China to give to Clinton. And he was stupid enough to tell Clinton, if you think me and my boy are going to jail for that money, we put you out your mind. So it made like they took that whole plane down, killed everybody on it just to get him. It's America. People say, man, all the stuff you know, don't you worry about them killing you? Oh, wait, oh. The God I pray to didn't make no junk. I grew up in a Negro neighborhood, and I used to hear black people, oh, she got good hair, she got bad hair, and I'd walk out the room. I didn't want to hear my mama and them talking about that, because my mama is the woman that got her extra job 2 weeks after New Year's for the whole year, was to get money to bring toys and gifts to her 6 children. And after she did it, she was stupid enough or ungodly enough to tell me that a white man named Santa Claus brought it. That's my mama. Now, I can't speak for y'all's mama. That's my mother. That's what I was raised by. Okay? My mama didn't know that King James was King of England. She didn't know that King James, she just thought God sent King James here to put the Bible together. She didn't know King James was such a weird, strange homosexual. He hated women so bad he killed his mama. His lover was Lord Buckingham, who Buckingham was named after. Buckingham Palace. And so this is something that just started, and I've just been going on for years. And if we listen to real white folks, see, white ain't a color, it's an attitude. And if you're stupid enough to believe them ignorant redneck crackers like the Ku Klux Klan, most of them couldn't read, none of them been to schools. They did, they went to a bad school. If you can believe they can determine public policy, then you might as well get in that barrel with them. If you believe the Tea Party, white, powerful businessmen in America, Republicans, are the most powerful businessmen in the whole world, and you tell me it's dirty and it's ungodly as they are, they're going to let some snots like the Tea Party shut this government down if they didn't want them to do it? That's a game. Defense contract, that's where they get them. Every congressional district get part of the defense money. Something in your district that creates jobs comes out the defense budget. Then the next question is, out of the defense contracts across the country, the top 20, you have to be $30 to $40 billion to be in the top 20. Out of the top 20, the top 10 is Democratic district. And out of the top 10, the top 2 is in Negro districts. Clay, St. Louis, he's number 1. What's his district? Lockheed Martin. Number 2, the ex-Black Panther brother from Chicago, is in his district. He's number 2. What's in his district? Boeing aircraft. That's how it's run, mother. And all of them are thieves and lies. Give me the right to vote. Give me the right to elect without giving me the right to select, and you got a fool going to the vote. what it's about.
I want to talk a little bit about. I know you talk a lot about health, Big Gregory, and you know we live in this internet age where, like we say, there's so much information around, and people are starting to see how the food has been harming us more than our grandmother saw, or more than our parents saw, and so on and so forth. So, what advice would you have to the people when they really see what's behind the food industry and the health industry and the GMOs and how this food is killing our people? What advice would you give to the general public as far as eating and consuming certain food?
I wouldn't give them none because they're not aware how vicious it is. You know, some of the things I said tonight, if my mother was alive, she'd call the police on me. If you and I was in Europe tonight, right?
Right.
And I was selling crack and you were selling Vaseline petroleum jelly and we got arrested, you know, you get 3 times more time than me. Did you know that?
Oh, in Europe? Yeah. Wow. Okay.
What did I say you were selling? Vaseline what?
Petroleum jelly.
Yeah. Vaseline petroleum. Ain't that gasoline?
Yeah.
Then we put it on our babies. I'm not talking about black folk. We put it on our babies. We put it all over our body, on our lips. Are you crazy? Did you see 2 weeks ago, Pepsi-Cola and Coca-Cola came out? They're fixing to run ads telling children don't drink too much of this soda pop. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that, no.
Think that sounds strange, don't it?
Yeah.
No, they know the government is fixing to put a tax on every bottle sold because young folks drink enough soda pop in America today that it costs this government $100 billion a year just dealing with the side effects. One soda pop make your bloodstream 10,000 times more acid than the universal God meant for it to be. The body needs proteins. How you a vegetarian? The body needs proteins. I said, well, there's a lot of proteins in a steak, but cows don't eat steak. Milk? Nobody on the planet but a human would give cow's milk to a baby that the universal God put together. Cow's milk? The most important ingredients in milk is casein, not calcium. You could eat newspaper and get more calcium than you would out of cow's milk. Casein builds a bone structure to carry the body's weight. Cow's milk has 300 times more casein in it than mother's milk because cow's milk got to build a bone structure to carry a ton plus. Mother's milk has to build a bone structure to carry a maximum of 175 pounds. Well, what do they do with casein? Oh, they make paint, glue. What? Yeah. The number one milk company in the world is in Ohio called Borden's. Borden's Milk. Elsie the cow, right? Ain't her picture on Elmer's glue?
Right.
So how do I sit on this show? Do you know the number one vegetarian, the number one cancer group in America is vegetarians? Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that, no.
Because they're not supposed to eat soy.
Okay, soy, right.
And punch it up, you see it creates cancer. It changed male hormones into female hormones into male hormones. And all these people talking about, God didn't make no homosexuals. Homosexuals been here. But the reason we have so many in America is the whole vegetarian thing, not knowing that they're not supposed to eat soy. George Washington Carver invented soybean for the military. He said, can you give us something we can get paint, ink, glue, and plastic? and he came up with soy. George Washington Carver. So, if you don't drink enough water, here's the 3 things we die from. Brain, we don't get enough rest. Die from sleep deprivation. Number 2, dehydration. And number 3, lack of physical fitness. All of it is free, produced by the universal God. But we don't have time. We don't have time. Sports is a violation of God. Do you have any children, brother?
No, not yet.
Well, let's say you have 5 children, okay? You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, at what point would you let the United States government start getting them mentally and physically ready for war from the time they're 1 year old to the time they're 18? What time would you let the government do that?
Oh, I wouldn't want the government to get them ready for war now.
Yeah, I just said that.
But what they start letting people join the army at what?
I didn't say that. Just answer my question, please. I said, at what point would you let them get your children ready for war? From the time they're 1 year old to the time they're 18. What time would you let them?
Let me see. Let's say 17.
Huh? Okay. That's what sports is about. That's what the Olympics was about. Getting them ready for war, because I know mom and dad ain't stupid enough to let me take them as little tots, huh? That's what that whole thing is about. If you was German and I was Russian, we went to war, we have different uniforms on. Well, same thing happened with the Cardinals in Philadelphia. They got different uniforms on. War games. How do you turn it around? How do you turn it around? Well, you have to know it first. You have to know it first. And so, the whole game. The whole game. And so, I would start off by saying, those of y'all that's listening to me that have children, you know, when a child is born and you take them to a doctor, they measure them. If they weigh 10 pounds, they tell them give them 20 ounces of water. That's universal law. Whatever you weigh in pounds, you're supposed to drink half that in water. You weigh 400 pounds, 200 pounds, 200 ounces of water. 100 pounds, 50 ounces of water. Universal law. Universal law. And then once that happens, those things start talking to you. You start hearing the real voice. Men control everything on this planet. Men. But it's called the mother tongue. The mother tongue. You heard that, right?
Yeah.
You ever heard the man tongue?
Never.
That's because when you lay in your mother's belly, you all are communicating. Did you see the movie Lucy?
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
Okay, go back and see it again. We only use 2% of our brain, right? Except when you're laying in your mother's bosom, you're losing 100% of your brain. You the one. If you was an engineer, you made up the blueprints to build this 100-story building. You give the blueprints to me, and I'll see to it. That's what happens when you land in your mother's bosom. Your DNA turns over to you and you're 100%, and you make the fingernails and the color of the hair. That's in the code. That's what you do. And then when you're born, you saw the movie, right?
Yeah.
You know Lucy was a black woman. You know that?
Right, yeah.
And they didn't have no black women in the movie. You know that?
Not one, no.
You know why?
Why?
If you looked inside of my head today, in my brain, and looked inside of a white person's head today, you'd see the same color, wouldn't you?
Right.
Okay. And then when she learned how to develop, and when she went up to 50% of her brain, remember?
Yeah.
And you remember they had drugs they was putting in their bellies?
Yeah.
The Chinese, right?
Yeah.
Now ask yourself a question. Under what circumstances are the Chinese doing in this movement? Whenever they're going to do something evil, they always get somebody they don't like. You heard of the German measles, right?
Yeah.
Go to Germany, they ain't never had it. And so this is the trickery that goes on. And so consequently, when you look at how it's done, and so that mother tongue, so we black folk want to believe the more our children talk like white folks, the better we get a job. Yeah, but you're violating the universe. That's why Chinese place, they talking Chinese, man. Go where Italian tango, they're talking Italian. Germany. The mother tongue. That's why we so messed up. We so busy don't want to sound Negro. Okay, keep playing the game. Keep playing the game.
Wow.
And so water. Drink your water. 9.5 hours of sleep minimum. 90 minutes after the sun go down. You in bed. And physical fitness. Just walking. The gorilla's so physical fit. You ain't never seen no gorilla running through the jungle unless it's a forest fire. And so 20 to 25 years from now, there'll be no more football in America. Why? The new inventions. And they'll come a day that they'll tell you as a father and a mother of a high school son or daughter, yeah, it'd be one of the best football players in the world, but you have to sign this disclaimer. Anything happens, we're not responsible for it. That's where this is going. And so it's about the body. Eating, drinking. You look at the DNA schedule. The universal God didn't make your body with no coffee or Kool-Aid or lemonade. That's simple.
Well, I certainly thank you for joining us once again, Brother Dick Gregory.
Thank you, my brother.
As always, it's been a pleasure. Is there anything else you want to leave the people with before we close out?
No, just remember one thing. That 2 billion years ago, the dinosaur left the planet. What they don't tell you, 2 billion years ago, the butterfly was there, and the turtle was there. 2 billion years ago. And you can't say it came from Jesus or God or the Pope or the Hindus, the Muslims. They wasn't here 2 billion years ago. 2 billion years ago, the dinosaur left. The same universal energy that put the dinosaur here, put you here, put me here, put the turtle here, and put the butterfly here. 2 billion years later, the butterfly is still here. Do you know the butterfly can fly all the way across the Atlantic Ocean and all the way across the Pacific Ocean, but the bald eagle can't make that trip?
I never knew that.
And there's a book out, quickly before I get out, a book out called Chaos. And you talk about the butterfly syndrome. There's a butterfly park in Peking, and right now, as you and I talk, them butterflies is flapping their wings in that butterfly park, determine what your weather pattern going to be like 9 months later in New York City. The reason we won the civil rights movement, took on the mightiest, evilest, ungodly, unspiritual nation in the history of the planet and won. Why? We the turtle. What you have to do to be a turtle? hard on the outside, soft on the inside, and willing to stick your neck out. That's all. Thank you, my brother.
I appreciate that closing, Dick Gregory, and we're going to see y'all next time. Peace.
Thank you. Peace to you.
October 17th, 1989, San Francisco's Loma Prieta earthquake registered 6.9 on the Richter scale. There were 63 casualties. February 27th, 2010, the Chilean earthquake registered 8.8, killing over 700 people. January 12th, 2010, an earthquake struck Haiti, registering 7.0, about the same size as the Loma Prieta. Yet, almost 250,000 people lost their lives. The question is, why? We talked to Lisa Faulkner, founder of Children's Hope and a longtime Haiti advocate.
Why is the devastation so much worse in Haiti than would have literally happened anywhere else in the world? That's the real story, and that's the story that hasn't really been told.
Pierre Labossiere is the founder of the Haiti Action Committee and one of the leading Haitian activists in the U.S.
Now, when you hear people talk about Haiti, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, and they stop it right there, right? You read the press, you hear it all the time. Then you wonder, then they don't tell you exactly, you know, what's going on behind it. So in our minds, we say, wow. We see so many examples where they say black people can't govern themselves, blacks are inferior, blacks can't make it. So you tend to deduce from there that, well, you know, country of blacks, what do you expect? They couldn't govern themselves.
Most folks like to think about Haiti as this poor, impoverished, backward people. And, you know, it could be that racism has some large part to play in that, because none of that really is at the essence of the truth. The first European university was in Haiti. The first cathedral was in Haiti. It was the wealthiest colony in the entire world. And it was very systematically drained of all of its natural resources, starting with its very humanity.
50% of the children are malnourished. 1/3 of all children will never turn 5. Why? Why is Haiti so poor? Television evangelist Pat Robertson offers his explanation.
They were under the heel of the French, you know, Napoleon III and whatever. And they got together and swore a pact to the devil.
In case you didn't buy that explanation, meet Paul Burke, Latin American scholar and professor at Sacramento State University.
Haiti is a poor nation because Haiti's an exploited nation. It goes back to the French colonial period, when Haiti was France's, the jewel of the French Empire.
The people of Haiti came together. They had their first Congress, and they united and pledged to defeat slavery, to rise up and fight a war of independence. And after 12 years, they succeeded in defeating the troops of Napoleon. This was major.
Napoleon's army fought desperately to hold on to Haiti.
But Toussaint Louverture, the Haitian independence leader, defeated Napoleon's army.
Haiti became the first free black republic in the world back in 1804.
Haiti really set the example with the slave revolution. It was historic, it was monumental. It literally shook the world when Haiti rejected slavery and had the successful slave revolution. It was so challenged, for example, U.S. hegemony, that for over 60 years, the United States would not recognize Haiti. That means wouldn't trade with Haiti. France refused to trade with Haiti.
The other thing that Haiti did that not enough people know about is that after Haiti won its own independence, the first thing it did was to support Simon Bolivar and the independence movements all over Latin America, and those probably would not have succeeded without Haitian support. So Haiti didn't just set an example in terms of liberating its people from slavery and setting that example in the world that slaves could rebel against their masters. Haiti set an example for all folks who were oppressed, who faced colonialism. And for that reason, the powers that be in the world made Haiti pay, and they made Haiti pay dearly.
Haiti became the place to be defeated. Haiti committed the greatest sin at that time. It called on enslaved people from wherever in the world they were to come to Haiti, and Haiti, they would receive political asylum, and they would receive Haitian citizenship, and Haiti would go to war to defend their freedom. That was a big blow to the world economic system that existed at the time, not only in the Caribbean, but all over the Americas. It was slavery. And so for a nation of enslaved people to rise up like that, man, that's a powerful example. Just think of it.
The way that the world responded was to isolate Haiti and to bully Haiti and to try to make Haiti pay for its crime of rising up against slavery and white supremacy.
The U.S. and France were not the only countries. Spain threatened to invade Haiti, Germany, Holland.
The U.S. and Great Britain, another of the Western industrial, significant powers, all pretty much ganged up on Haiti.
Haiti was by itself, completely isolated, completely.
It's nice to think romantically that, oh, we probably would support the Haitian independence struggle because in many ways it was modeled after our own. But that's the opposite, because what people tend to forget is that during that period that the United States was run by mostly slave owners. People like Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, for all their courage, all their brilliance, they were also slave owners, and they were committed to the doctrine of white supremacy and committed to slavery. And Haiti's revolution threatened all that. So the U.S. was very hostile to Haiti, and in fact, the United States didn't even recognize Haiti as an independent country until Abraham Lincoln did it, more than a half century later, after the Civil War, during the Civil War.
With these countries threatening constant invasion, Haiti didn't really have an opportunity to recoup, especially from the losses it was forced to pay.
Probably the most important event happened in 1825 when France came back, kind of regrouped. Right, this is 20 years later. Haiti's been a free nation state. But France came back and threatened to reinvade Haiti, to reoccupy it, and to re-enslave the people. And they said, basically, either you pay us an extortion fee of what is now about $22 billion in today's money, or we're going to take you back.
There were warships circling Haiti a year after year following the revolution.
Haiti was weak enough that it really didn't want to go through another war. It had been a 13-year war. They lost, the large percentage of their population was killed during the war. So they decided to pay the fee.
Haiti was forced to pay to France the equivalent of $21.7 billion in today's money. Forced to pay that money to France in reparations because the former slave owners had lost their property. What was their property? Our foremothers and fathers.
They wanted all the profit from the slaves that they weren't able to sell. The slaves that had found their own freedom, a freedom that wasn't reality for American slaves, not for many years to come.
In order for Haiti to pay the extortion fee to France, they had to shut down all their public schools. So when people talk about Haiti being underdeveloped, when they talk about the high illiteracy rates in Haiti, and they're very high. Illiteracy rates are somewhere around 70%, and that's because they haven't had public schools since 1825.
Monies that should have gone into the building of Haiti, monies that should have gone into building schools, building irrigation ditches, building, providing things to build the society, building a healthcare system, went into paying France.
So it really goes back to that period to understand why Haiti today is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere.
It took over a century for Haiti to be able to finally pay off the debt that was extracted, really blackmailed.
Unfortunately, when we get closer to 2010, the story actually gets worse, not better. Because finally, in 1990, the Haitian people had a chance for the first time in their nation's history to elect their first free president in a free democratic election.
They managed to get a priest that grew up in the poorer part of Haiti himself and really understood the people. They talked him into running.
His name was Jean Bertrand Aristide. He had earned a reputation for being a dedicated advocate for the poor.
Despite the fact that there was many candidates, despite the fact that the United States had one in particular, Marc Bazin, who they wanted to win and gave a lot of funding to, Aristide won easily. He got, I think, 67% of the vote back in 1990. In the fall of 1991, George Bush Sr. and other nefarious forces overthrew Aristide along with the Haitian military and the Haitian elite, and they implemented a military coup. Aristide was forced from power. But in 2000, he ran for president again. And even though he had only served, total about 2 years out of his 5-year term, it was clear that the people were thrilled with what he had tried to do in that time, because when he ran for president in 2000, he got more than 90% of the vote. And international observers watched the election very carefully. The U.S. was looking for any excuse to delegitimize Aristide's re-election. But it was a free and fair election.
He wasn't so popular with the power elite, not only in Haiti, but in the world community. So twice he was subject to military coups that overthrew both of these free elections, and now he's in exile.
First, the Clinton administration went after him and started to create kind of an economic blockade of Haiti. And then when George Bush Jr. took over, then he continued it and intensified the campaign to destabilize the Aristide government.
Haitians had it written in their constitution that only Haitian nationals could own property, and yet when the U.S. invaded Haiti and occupied Haiti, then that was done away with. So it opened the door, it opened every door and every window to the world really sucking the life out of Haiti.
Eventually it led to the coup of February 29, 2004, which is a day of infamy in Haiti, but for the world, because once again, the will of the Haitian people was violated. And the democratic election of 2000 was overthrown when George Bush sent the Marines in to overthrow their president.
You have a puppet government put in there by the U.S. According to the Haitian Constitution, someone must have lived in Haiti for 5 years before you can become a prime minister. This guy left Haiti 18 years ago. He lives in Boca Raton, Florida. He was put on the plane and made prime minister by the U.S. And his name is Gérard Latortue. He was put in there to be prime minister. First thing he did, he told the French, "We are so sorry. Aristide is a crazy man. Haiti has no claim against France." So he retracted the whole thing in terms of, the repayment by France of the money they took from us.
After all that the Haitian people have been through, now they're trying to grapple with the earthquake.
The French Revolution, the American Revolution before the French Revolution, and the Haitian Revolution. The first two are very well known and talked about and celebrated in movies and what have you. But the Haitian Revolution is hardly talked about.
Whenever we meet with the media on these different levels, as soon as we start talking about why conditions are the way they are in Haiti, then the camera goes off and all of a sudden we're out of time.
And so the devil said, okay, it's a deal. True story.
This is the Paris the French government wants the world to see. Historic, beautiful, picture perfect. A city where French values of liberty, equality, and fraternity are meant to prevail. But there's another Paris just a few miles away.
In this other France, there are no national monuments, there are no quaint sidewalk cafes, and no tree-lined boulevards intersecting a city of lights.
Not far from the city center, the city of light grows dim. This area is called the 93, high-rise ghettos filled with poor black immigrants and ethnic French. Unemployment here runs as high as 40%. It's a breeding ground for resentment.
They are angry that they don't feel French, they are angry at the government and at the police who they say are provoking them.
He treats us like we're dirt off a car tire. I'm not a tire.
Relations with the police are such that these young people expect, they indeed anticipate mistreatment or violence at the hands of law enforcement.
Police harassment may have sparked another French Revolution. In October 2005, 2 teenagers of African descent were electrocuted in a power substation while dodging a police checkpoint in a suburb outside Paris. The incident set off a firestorm that lasted 21 days.
These events are signposts of others yet to come.
Details of the Paris uprising were brought to life by Trika Keaton, an associate professor at the University of Minnesota, who shared her research with Vanderbilt scholars.
Because the underlying problems have not been clearly identified and therefore not addressed.
When Trika was talking about what's happening in France, for example.
The racial rioting in Europe's most ethnically diverse country sparked discussion at a year-long seminar focused on the Black European experience.
Even within these so-called nation states, there are tensions around identity.
Tracy Sharpley Whiting.
So they're still having to try to work this thing, as we might say, into a unity.
And Lucius Outlaw organized a faculty lecture series called Black Europe or Diaspora Studies in Europe, held at the Robert Penn Warren Center for the Humanities.
Just because you're black, you need not assume that you know everything about the culture. That you must become a student of your culture.
And that's in fact what is happening. I'm going back to school on this particular question.
So what it means to speak about Europe as though it were a singularity.
While there's a wealth of scholarly research framing the African American experience, in Europe, and France in particular, the impact of the black presence is now being studied in earnest.
What black means in France or in Germany or in Scotland or the Netherlands is highly varied.
How do you accommodate this difference? And I think the problem is that many of these countries do not want to accommodate that difference.
Between the 15th and 19th centuries, millions of Africans were forced onto European slave ships and taken to Europe or the Americas. The end of the slave trade in the 19th century marked the beginning of European colonial expansion in Africa, already weakened by the loss of human resources. The global migration of blacks, forced and voluntary, is called the African diaspora. Their presence changed the face of Europe.
We begin to look at, well, this particular lovely building, like the Louvre, right, or Versailles. Our banking institutions were very much tied to black labor, and therefore they represented a black presence.
And yet, Europe continued to be portrayed as exclusively white, except around the edges.
The most well-known are perhaps the portraits, the European portraits that came out as African slave, usually a young boy, who would look at them in kind of admiration. And that is the sort of classic image of imperialism that scholars have talked about.
I think for so long Europe has been coded in our minds as white and representing whiteness, and so the idea of black European seems like an oxymoron for many people, I think.
That's why I'm Parisienne, c'est comme ça.
You think of Europe as one of 2 capitals of the Western world, but it turns out that each of those capitals must now reconsider what it is in light of immigration.
Immigration to Europe has also grown dramatically since the end of World War II. Most European nations today have sizable immigrant populations, many from Africa and their former colonies. But the new faces have created a national identity crisis that's yet to be resolved.
We are not aware of how complicated that experience actually is.
Those societies now have to redefine themselves in light of what it means to be a citizen in them.
True to form, the British did not articulate overtly racist propaganda in its model West African colonies.
During the forum, guest lecturers presented research that broadened the horizon, sharpened the focus.
Some of the better moments for me was when we had lectures, presentations by researchers who are actually spending time in various places in Europe.
I was looking at just the idea of,
its ethnicity an issue in the Netherlands.
The group discussed papers with subjects ranging from the colonial legacies of European countries, racial stereotyping in advertising, and the constitutional changes that affect immigration.
The Europeans earlier liked to pretend that they didn't really have that much to do with those people who were out of sight and who were in those distant lands abroad. Now they're living on the same block.
Seated round the table was an academically diverse group of scholars examining the role people of color will play in the new European Union.
Time it may be productive to have a different kind of terminology or conceptual frame for talking about what's going on there.
Ifeoma Nwankwo, Associate Professor of English.
It seems to me that one of the directions for Black European Studies is to expose who are these players, what is at stake for them.
Tiffany Patterson, Associate Professor of African American and Diaspora Studies and History.
It's going to have to define citizenship in new ways, which I'm assuming its Constitution is attempting to do.
Hortense Spillers, Gertrude Conaway Vanderbilt Professor of English.
In a certain way, this is a question of state formation for me, where populations have not yet been incorporated into the body politic.
Catherine Molyneux, Assistant Professor of History.
I have most benefited from the historians that are around the table because I think philosophers are notoriously bad historians.
Catherine Gines, Assistant Professor of African American and Diaspora Studies and Philosophy. Devin Fergus, Assistant Professor of History. And Tina Kampt, Associate Professor of Women's Studies at Duke University and Visiting Scholar in Residence for the seminar.
We had historians, literature and culture professor, we had philosophy professors, you got English professors, and so it was an interesting kind of mix.
I think that it's always helpful to have historians and literary people in the same room together talking about the same topic.
Becoming aware not only of how other people might approach something, but also how I am approaching it.
I was 18, and so I think I was very much influenced by my time in Europe.
One free-flowing discussion included Angela Davis, longtime activist and feminist scholar, who studied French literature and philosophy abroad.
One of the things I've always found interesting about Europe is the way in which what we generally recognize as racism gets defined in terms of xenophobia.
Europe, she believes, is at a cultural crossroads.
There will be major confrontations, major catastrophes to sort out the demographic shift, but also the cultural shifts that have happened in the countries of the various countries that constitute Europe.
And this is something that I have personally witnessed throughout my years of research in France and something I have experienced myself.
The 2007-2008 Robert Penn Warren Humanities Seminar on Black Europe seeks to challenge what we think we know about the history and culture of Europe by reconsidering how we view Europe in light of the African diaspora and the contributions of the Black presence within it.
And certainly part of the mission of the seminar was to debunk this idea that without the Black presence, we wouldn't necessarily be considering Europe civilized. I mean, Black people contributed a great deal to what we consider Europe and European.
And having a multidisciplinary group of people come together to explore some interesting, challenging topic and operate with good chemistry, they're very, very special experiences on many levels.
With the serious turn in research on Black Europe, scholarship in the area is expanding, adding depth to this growing field of study.
This topic is going to begin to change the kind of understandings that we have about Europe, as well as how important the presence of African people has been to world history.
So what this forum in the African diaspora is really reinforcing is the sense that you really could take up African diasporic studies by itself and end up studying the whole world?
I was invited to address the first Congress of the Council of African Organizations in London. They had a 4-day Congress from the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and had invited me there to make the closing address and bring the delegates from the various African organizations that are situated on the European continent up to date in regards to the struggle of the black man in this country in his quest for human rights and human dignity. And in conjunction with that invitation, I had gotten an invitation to visit Paris from the Afro-American community in Paris, which was sponsoring a rally in conjunction with the African community. And I was supposed to go there Tuesday also and address them and let them know the state of development or lack of development of our progress in this country for human rights or toward human rights. As many of you know, when I got to Paris, the man said I couldn't come in. Some man, French man. They gave me no explanation other than to say, we have our orders. They wouldn't let me phone the American embassy, and they tried to imply that the American embassy was behind it, which I told them that I didn't know de Gaulle had become a satellite of Lyndon B. Johnson. I knew that Kennedy had made a satellite out of Khrushchev and Britain and half of these other countries, but I didn't think that France was a satellite of the United States. Well, this made them angry because they like to be independent, you know, or pretend to be independent. The same thing happened in England. As many of you probably read in the Sunday Times and Tribune, there was a great fear in England concerning me speaking to the West Indian community. And this is because England has a very serious color problem developing because so many of our people are migrating there from the British West Indies. France, quietly as it is kept, has a very serious color problem developing because of the migration to France of our people from the French West Indies. And with these people from the French West Indies, black people going to France, others from the British West Indies going to England, coupled with the Asians who are coming from the Commonwealth territories, along with the Africans from French Equatorial West Africa, formerly into France, and the British possessions into Britain. There's a large, increasing number of dark-skinned people swelling the dark population of France and Britain, and it's giving them a great deal of cause for worry. The only difference over there and over here being that no one of black skin in France has ever tried to unite the dark-skinned people together, neither have they done so in England. So you can somewhat see what their fear is. No effort has been made to unite the Afro-American community or the American Negro community with the West Indian community, and then those two communities with the African community, and those communities with the Asian community. This has never been done.